What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JohnnyKpicks. And in this video, I'll be going over my full card, picks and predictions, along with my bets so far for UFC San Diego, Vera versus Cruz. First things first, please hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any of my new videos or live streams. So UFC Vegas 59 was last night, and it was a clean sweep for finishes. There were 10 fights, and there were 10 finishes. You can't ask for anything better, except maybe for better picks, because my picks, they end up going 6-4. And for my bets, I hate to say it again, but I ended up losing minus 0.03 units. Yes, I did not make a mistake with that. It is 0.03 units I lost. So I think this is like the third time I've lost like very minimal units, so it's okay. If I'm gonna lose, I'd rather have this kind of losing night, but I had some overs, and clearly there wasn't anything over in that fight because they all finished, so that kind of ruined a lot of my parlays. So other than that, I did pretty good with the picks and stuff like that, so I'm not complaining one bit. Just got to move on and get to this card. But some of my favorite performances were from Battle, Neal, and Hill. So with Battle, if you were going to tell me he was going to come in here and high kick Sato and knock him out, I would call you crazy. And guess what? He did that. I'm the crazy one. Didn't see that one coming one bit, but very good performance from him. And I know there was a lot of buzz on Twitter and YouTube. A lot of people said that he looked really rough on the scales. And this is just another reason why I don't like to look at the weigh-ins as much as some people do. The only way that I will maybe change my pick or change my bet is if they look like they're literally dying. And he looked fine. He did look a little sucked out, but overnight, I mean, he looked way better in the octagon, and he wasn't wobbly or anything like that. So I thought he looked okay. He did look a little sucked out. Like I said, it was his first time going down to welterweight, so he's going to look like that probably. And with Neal, another impressive win. Didn't see this one coming because I really like Luque in this matchup, but Luque just didn't move his head. Not one bit, because he got touched up numerous times in the first round. And Neal just kept popping him with that left, and he couldn't figure it out. And eventually, it was his first knockout loss of his career, and Neal did really good. You got to give him credit for that. And with Hill, yet another great performance. He looked really good stuffing those takedowns. He looked really good striking like he normally does. He still has power that translates through the second and third round because most of his fights finish in the first. And like I said, looked really good, clean striking. He stuffed the majority of those takedowns, and when he did get taken down, he got right back up. So I think Hill's going to be a problem in this division, and he definitely could be a dark horse for a championship. But all right, guys, let's get to my picks and predictions for UFC San Diego. The first fight we have is Ariane Lipski versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Lipski is 14-7, 28 years old, 5'6", with a 67-inch reach. And Cachoeira is 11-4, 33 years old, 5'7", with a 65-inch reach. All right, so this fight was supposed to happen on the last card, but Lipski missed weight a little bit, and she wasn't medically cleared for some reason to fight, even though she looked fine on the scales. Just maybe she looked a little bit mad, but for whatever reason, it's happening in this card. But like I said in my last breakdown in my last video, they're both strikers. I think Lipski is just the more technical of the two. Cachoeira might have the more power, and she's just a little bit too hittable for me. And also with Lipski, she does have some submission wins in her career early on, but she can use some of the grappling, and we've seen before with Cachoeira, if the fight does get to the mat, she kind of doesn't know what to do. So I'm not saying Lipski is the best submission artist or anything, but I do think she'll have an advantage in the grappling if it does go there. But I just think this fight's going to end up playing out like the Kim versus Cachoeira fight, where Lipski's going to piece her up, probably outstrike her, maybe 2-1, but Cachoeira might land the harder strike. So it's going to be a really close fight. I could see it go either way, but I'm going to stick with my original pick. I'm picking Lipski to win, and I'm going to say she wins by decision. Next fight we have is Jason Witt versus Josh Quinlan. Witt is 19-8, 35 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach. And Quinlan is 5-0, 29 years old, 6 foot, with a 72-inch reach. All right, and again, this fight was supposed to happen on the last card, but it looked like Quinlan popped for some PEDs again, and they're okay with doing this in San Diego instead of Nevada. So for whatever reason, it's happening now. And I just want to say this should be the right picture of Quinlan, because in my last breakdown, I totally didn't put the right picture in there, so hopefully this is right now. But I'm going to go with my initial one again as well. I'm going with Quinlan to win this fight. I just don't trust Jason Witt's chin. He's going to be the better wrestler, so he can get the takedowns maybe. But Quinlan does have good BJJ. He has very good striking with power. And I just think it's only going to take one clean strike to Jason Witt's chin, and it's going to be a knockout from there. It might not happen in the first or second, but I think it's going to happen eventually in some way, shape, or form. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Quinlan wins this one by a knockout. Moving on up the card, we have Yusuf Zalal versus Damon Blackshear. Zalal is 10-5, 25 years old, 5'10 with a 75-inch reach. And Blackshear is 12-4, 28 years old, 5'10 with a 72.5-inch reach. So this is a very interesting fight. Damon is taking this fight on short notice, and it is his UFC debut. But he does have a lot of experience in the regional scenes, and he did fight in Bellator once, so he's not a bum by any means. He does have good striking with good power. He does have okay grappling, but he's mainly a striker. He wants to keep this on the feet, and a lot of his losses, people have took him down and kept him down. And with Zalal, he's a solid, well-rounded fighter. He has good striking. He is a little low volume at times, but he does have good wrestling and grappling, so he can go down to the mat if he wants to. And I do think Zalal is going to take this to the mat. I think that's where the clear advantage in this fight for Zalal is. If he can use his wrestling and mix in those takedowns and maybe just stay on top control and just work from there, I do think he'll be able to grind out a decision. And as I said earlier, it is Damon's UFC debut and taking this fight on short notice, so I don't know where his cardio is going to be, so it's always a little red flag for me. So I'm going to go with Zalal here. I do think he's just the more well-rounded fighter. So with my pick, I'm going to say Zalal wins this one by a decision. Next fight we have is Angela Hill versus Lupita Godinez. Hill is 13-12, 37 years old, 5'3 with a 64.5-inch reach. And Lupi is 8-2, 28 years old, 5'2 with a 61-inch reach. Okay, so this fight was supposed to happen in October sometime, but then they moved it up about 2 months for whatever reason. No idea. Maybe they just needed to find fights for this card. I have no idea. But this is an easy breakdown. Angela Hill is going to be the better striker. She's very quick on her feet. She doesn't have a lot of power, but she does have good volume, and she does get taken down pretty easily. And with Lupi, she is an amazing wrestler, has pretty good striking with some power, but make no mistake about it, she wants to use that wrestling. She wants to go for the takedowns and then take you down and then either ground and pound you or work on for a submission. And I just see that happening just like that. Lupi's going to be able to come in here, get the takedowns easy, and she's going to be able to stay in top control. I don't see a finish or anything like that because Angela Hill is tough to finish, but Lupi should have no problems with this fight. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Lupi wins this one by a decision and is one of my no-brainer picks of the night. Next fight we have is Ode Osbourne versus Tyson Nam. Osbourne is 11-4, 30 years old, 5'7 with a 72-inch reach. And Nam is 20-12-1, 38 years old, 5'7 with a 68-inch reach. All right, so we have our striker versus striker match, and both guys have pretty good striking with good power. I will say Ode is a little bit more explosive and a little bit more unpredictable. He likes to go do those flying knees and elbows, spinning back fist, elbows, whatever you want to say. Also, Ode does throw more volume. Osbourne also has pretty good wrestling and grappling, but he mainly likes to keep it on the feet. And with Nam, he's a little low volume for me, but he has very good power. He has that knockout shot that he could always be live for, but he also hasn't fought in about a year and a half, and he's kind of getting up there in age. He's almost 39 years old, so I don't know how much he has left in the tank. But for me, I really like Ode in this matchup. As long as he can play it safe and not get caught with that power shot from Nam, I think Ode should be able to outstrike him for 3 rounds. I don't see a finish because Nam is pretty tough. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Ode Osbourne wins this one by a decision, just outstriking him pretty much all 3 rounds. Next fight we have is Gabriel Benitez versus Charlie Ontiveros. Benitez is 22-10, 34 years old, 5'8 with a 71-inch reach. And Ontiveros is 11-8, 31 years old, 6'2 with a 76-inch reach. All right, so this is another striker versus striker match, and this is going to be a pretty easy one to break down as well. So for me, Benitez is going to be the better striker, and actually I think he's the better fighter in this matchup. He's more technical, he's going to have the speed advantage. And he also has very good leg kicks, so he can chop at those big legs of Ontiveros. And Charlie's going to be the bigger fighter here. He's going to have the 5-inch reach advantage and 4-inch height advantage. And honestly, I just think that's about all he has going for him in this fight. Both guys have lost their last 2 fights by knockout. So I definitely think somebody's going to get knocked out here, and I'm going to say it's Ontiveros. Like I said, Benitez is the more technical striker here. He does have good power, and those leg kicks are going to add up eventually because I don't think Ontiveros is going to have anything to stop those. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Benitez wins this one by a knockout. Moving on up the card, we have Lucas Brzeski versus Martin Buday. Brzeski is 8-1-1, 30 years old, 6'4", with a 78-inch reach, and Buday is 10-1, 30 years old, 6'4", with a 77-inch reach. So this is another interesting fight for me. Lucas is making his UFC debut, and he's a pretty well-rounded fighter. He does have good striking, good power. He does have wrestling that he can use. And Buday is also a very good, solid fighter. He's got good power, pretty good striking. He works really good in the clinch. Haven't really seen him use any wrestling, but he does like to push his opponent up against the cage and just go to town. And if you remember in his last fight against Chris Barnett, he was just using those knees all day, and I think he eventually maybe broke one of his ribs or something. I could be wrong with that, but he is very good in the clinch, like I said, with those elbows and knees. And for me, I just like Buday here. I think he's just going to be the little bit more technical fighter. And if he gets close to you and gets you up against the cage or in a clinch position, I don't think Lucas is going to be able to escape that clinch. Unless he uses his wrestling, then it's a different story. But I think Buday is going to be good enough to keep it on the feet and use that clinch and Muay Thai strikes and maybe wear him down a bit in the first and second round and get that late finish. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Buday wins this one by a knockout. Next fight we have Yasmin Jauregui versus Isman Lucindo. Yasmin is 8-0, 23 years old, 5'3", with a 64-inch reach. And Lucindo is 13-4, 20 years old, 5'3", and I'm not sure her reach. So both of these young fighters are making their UFC debuts. And I'm going to tell you right now, up front, not touching this fight from a betting perspective. I just think there's too many unknowns here. They're both super young. But Yasmin is a good striker, and she has very good combos with a good ground game. And Lucindo is a very good grappler. She does have okay striking, but she wants to take the fight to the mat and work from the top position and try to get those submissions. And as I said, this is a very tough fight to predict, but I'm going to go with Yasmin here. And I know usually the rule of thumb is if you're kind of in the middle, and if you don't know who to pick, you always lean the grappler, but I like to lean the striker. I think she has the better striking for sure, and if she can keep this on the feet, she should be able to piece up Lucindo here. So with my pick, I'm going to say Yasmin wins this one by a decision. Next fight we have is Nina Nunes versus Cynthia Calvillo. Nunes is 10-7, 36 years old, 5'5", with a 64-inch reach, and Calvillo is 9-4-1, 35 years old, 5'4", with a 64-inch reach. All right, so again, this fight was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago, and I can't really remember why it was canceled, but here we are. So Nunes is a decent striker. She does have okay grappling, but she's mainly a striker, and she wants to keep it on the feet. And always a little red flag for me is she hasn't fought in about a year, and it's probably because she just had a baby. But Calvillo is a very well-rounded fighter. She has very good wrestling and decent striking, and she's definitely going to have the grappling and wrestling advantage here. So for me, Calvillo is the pick. If she uses her wrestling, I do think she'll be able to get the takedowns, and she should be able to stay in top control and pretty much just grind out a decision win here. I don't think Nunes will be able to fend off the takedowns, especially in the first and second rounds. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Calvillo wins this one by a decision. Moving on up the card, we have Devin Clark versus Asmat Murzakanov. Clark is 13-6, 32 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. And Asmat is 11-0, 33 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. So this is going to be a fun fight. Clark is definitely going to be the wrestler here. He wants to go for takedowns, he wants to get you to the mat, and he wants to stay in top control to use his ground and pound. He does have okay striking, but I wouldn't say it's anything to brag about, and his chin is a little suspect at times. And with Asmat, he's a very good striker. He's very quick, has tons of power. And I know he's not the biggest guy for the division, but like I said, he makes up for it with his speed. And the one little concerning thing about me for Asmat here is in his last fight, he did tend to fade as the fight went on. And actually, I think he was losing the first 2 rounds, but he ended up coming out in the 3rd round and getting the knockout. So he does have power through all 3 rounds. So I'm going to go with Asmat here. I just think he's the more technical striker. He's going to be able to touch Devin Clark's chin. He does have okay wrestling too. He doesn't use it that often, but I think he'll be able to fend off the takedowns of Devin Clark. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Asmat wins this one by a knockout. Next fight we have is Gerald Meerschaert versus Bruno Silva. Meerschaert is 34-15, 34 years old, 6'1" with a 77.5-inch reach. And Silva is 22-7, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. All right, so we got our grappler versus striker matchup here. Meerschaert is an amazing grappler. He's got very good submissions, guillotines, any kind of choke, he has them. But his problem is he doesn't have the greatest wrestling or takedowns, and his striking is just okay. And with Silva, he's got very good striking, lots of power, and he's durable. And he does have some decent wrestling and grappling, but I think he's going to want to keep this fight on the mat. I think he's going to be a little outmatched if he does go on the mat with Meerschaert. And for me, I just don't see this ending well for Gerald. I know he's always live to get some crazy come from behind submission, but Bruno Silva's tough. He's going to land a couple good shots on Gerald on the feet, and Gerald's chin is a little suspect as well, too. He has been knocked out a couple times recently, so with my pick here, I'm going to say Bruno Silva wins this one by knockout, and I don't think Gerald's going to get some come-from-behind submission this time. All right, co-main event time here. We have David Onama versus Nate Landwehr. Onama is 10-1, 28 years old, 5'11", with a 74-inch reach. And Landwehr is 15-4, 34 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach. Okay, so this is going to be a very fun fight to watch for however long it lasts. Both guys are powerful strikers. I will give Onama maybe the technical edge, but Landwehr likes to make this a brawl. He's going to want to push forward and keep Onama on his back foot. And in Onama's last fight, we did see him go for takedowns and do a submission as well, so he does have that in his back pocket. But honestly, I see this fight playing out in the feet. It's going to be a slugfest, like I said, for however long it lasts. And I do think Onama's going to win this one. Like I said, I think he's the more technical striker. He's going to have a reach advantage, so he needs to stay at range and not make this a brawl, because that's what Nate wants to do. He wants to just swing and swing and swing, and he might just land that knockout shot if that happens. So if everything goes well, Onama should win this one. I'm going to say by knockout. I think one of these guys are going to knock out one another. So with my pick, I'm going to say Onama wins by knockout. Okay, main event time here. We have Marlon Vera versus Dominick Cruz. Vera is 21-7-1, 29 years old, 5'8", with a 70.5-inch reach. And Cruz is 24-3, 37 years old, 5'8", with a 68-inch reach. Okay, very excited for this fight. Both guys are mainly strikers, but they do have some wrestling that they could use. I will give Cruz the more technical striking advantage, but Cheeto is definitely going to have the power and toughness advantage. And it always seems with Cheeto, he gets stronger as the fight goes on, and this is a 5-round fight, and 5-round fights for him, I think, are his jam, because after the first or second round, I think he just turns it up every other round, and he takes 2 punches to land 1 strong punch that'll leave a mark on your face, and that's the best part I like about Cheeto. But Cruz is no slouch, don't get me wrong. I know he's up there in age, but he's one of the best bantamweights probably in the UFC ever. He's got a weird, unorthodox movement that's kind of tricky. He doesn't get hit a lot, but we have seen him get clipped a couple times and fall in the Pedro Munoz fight, so it can happen. And I'm not going to say this is a no-brainer pick, but I really like Cheeto in this fight. I just think if this was a 3-round fight, I might lean Cruz, but 5 rounds, I like Vera. And I really think this is going to play out like the Vera-Font fight, where Font was landing the more strikes, but Cheeto's going to be landing the more powerful strikes. And not to mention, I think Cruz's only path to victory here is to stay on the outside, keep moving left and right for all 5 rounds. And I think that's just going to be too much for him. I think Cheeto will eventually get to him in the later rounds. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Vera wins this one by a knockout, maybe in the 4th or 5th round. Alright guys, those are my picks and predictions so far, but let's jump right into my bets for UFC San Diego. The first bet I have is a 2-fighter parlay. I bet 1.25 units on Murzakanov and Benitez to win, and I got that at plus 103. So for me, both these guys are going to be the more technical strikers. They're going to be the more dangerous fighters on the feet as well. Asmat has tons of power in his hands. He's going to be way quicker than Clark. And Clark has shown he has a little bit of a suspect chin. So I do think eventually that Asmat will touch that chin and knock him out. And with Benitez, he's just the overall better fighter no matter what here. I think eventually he's going to be able to chop at his legs and get that knockout in maybe the second or third round. The next bet I have is another 2-fighter parlay. I bet 1.25 units on Buday and Osbourne to win, and I got that at plus 103. So again, I think these guys are the more dangerous fighters in their matchup. Buday is taking on someone making his UFC debut, and I do think he'll eventually wear down Lucas in the clinch and potentially get a knockout later in the fight, maybe second or third round. And with O'Day, he's just going to be the more explosive fighter. I think he's going to be throwing more volume, but he just needs to be careful with Nam's power because he does have pretty good power and he could knock out O'Day. But either way, I like O'Day's chances here. I think he can mix in some wrestling if he wants to, but he's going to be the better striker on the feet as well. And the last bet I have is yet another 2-fighter parlay. I bet 1.25 units on Silva and Vera to win, and I got that at plus 100. So just like the last 2 bets, both these guys are super dangerous. They have a lot of power. Silva's definitely going to have the power advantage against Meerschaert, and he just needs to land 1 or 2 clean shots, and I do think Meerschaert's going down. And with Vera, I just think he's going to eventually get to Dominic Cruz. It might take a couple rounds, but I do think he'll be able to land the cleaner shots, and he should be able to get a late round finish, but if not, I do think he'll be able to get the decision win as well. But alright guys, those are my picks, predictions, and bets so far for UFC San Diego. Thank you everybody for watching, and please hit that like button on your way out. Also, don't forget to check back on this video in the comments section or on my Instagram for any added bets throughout the week. I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend, and until next time, happy fight night.